All right, well, welcome everybody to the first early literacy chat of 2021. Today, we're going to be sharing ideas with each other about how to polish our virtual story times. So the first half or so of our hour is just going to be my sharing a lot of information about running virtual story times. And then at the end, we'll have plenty of time for everybody to get on and talk about what their library has been doing or what your plans are doing so that we can get advice from everybody around the state on how to keep improving. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Samantha Blanquart, and I am the Early Literacy Outreach Coordinator for the Alaska State Library. I also am the Early Literacy Librarian at the Anchorage Public Library, so I wear two hats. And I'm also the coordinator for Ready to Read Alaska, which is a statewide initiative whose goal is to help get all of Alaska's children ready for kindergarten. So, as I mentioned today, we'll be talking about our virtual story times. And in that, we'll be covering, first of all, the practicalities of offering a virtual story time, how we can engage with families in a virtual environment, and how we can make sure that our story times virtually are accessible to many different kinds of families. And we'll also touch on copyright and some things that are very specific to our new during and post-COVID environment. And at the end there, I have some handy links for resources where you can dive even deeper into this topic if you're interested. So let's jump right on in with our practicalities. So the first thing to decide on when you're doing a virtual story time is whether or not you are going to offer them live or if you're going to pre-record your story time and then have it available for later viewing. So during your, when you do your story time live, it can allow you to respond to people who are watching it in real time, but it can leave out families who don't use social media, because a lot of times when we're doing a story time live, we're thinking like Facebook Live, or we're thinking Instagram or something like that. So those families who don't have access to the social media will miss out. A pre-recorded story time, on the other hand, it could be put on YouTube, it could be embedded onto your own library website, which makes it really easy for families to access and to replay. Pre-recording videos also allows you to edit that video, so you can remove any goofs or awkward moments. You would also be able to add in graphics like the covers of the books, or you could change your camera angle as appropriate for whatever activity in Storytime you're doing. But you know your community best. So you will know, are your patrons active on social media? Do they come to your library's social media page? Are they tagging you in their own posts? Are you a library location that doesn't have social media and your city won't let you have it, right? You know your community and your community's needs. There's also a choice about how you'll be filming that story time. So if you've ever looked online for a book read aloud, you might have seen that a lot of them are focused only on the pages and the illustrations in the book, and you're not seeing the reader at all. Other versions will show the reader and the book together and occasionally zoom in to get a closer look at the illustrations. There was some discussion about this on the ALSC listserv back in September, and our very own Claudia Haynes was contributing to that. And the general preference among librarians seems to be showing both our faces and the book pages at the same time, very similar to how we would do it in an in-person story time. And there are several ways of doing so. You could just hold the book as you normally would in story time and make sure the camera is seeing both your face and the book. You can also, there's a possibility of rigging up two cameras, where one camera is looking at you and then the other is pointed directly on the book, which could be flat on a tabletop, and you're using maybe a document viewer or something like that. And that lets people see a close-up of your face, and then the book itself is kind of like picture in picture. And our other presentation practicality is, of course, choosing a platform on which to host your story times. So as I mentioned, a lot of libraries are choosing to do theirs on social media these days. such as using Facebook Live or going live on Instagram or putting it as an IGTV. And others are posting them on YouTube as unlisted videos or using web conference software such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Still, some others are using radio and foregoing that visual component of Storytime altogether. There's no wrong answer here for choosing a platform. It's just based on your community needs and preferences and what your library's budget and staffing and comfort level is, whatever is going to work for you. So don't feel, and if you say you've chosen one, maybe you've been doing some Facebook Lives and it hasn't been working out, you don't feel like you have to be married to a certain platform either. You can give a couple of different ones a try and see which one really sticks for you. Okay, so another practical thing, equipment. How do we film this? How are we recording this? There are so many options now for recording video and sound and sharing it with the world. Your library may choose to film your story time just using a basic webcam at a computer or laptop. You can also go the smartphone route or something like an iPod Touch and just have that smartphone on a camera or otherwise propped up somewhere. You can also go big budget and you can purchase a real camera, or maybe your staff already has a real camera and have that on a tripod. So whatever you go with, it might be decided by what's on hand at your library or what your friend's budget is for spending. But if you can, I think that it's a good idea to treat this kind of filming equipment as an investment. We're not going to be in this pandemic forever, even though, of course, it does feel like that sometimes. But if you're able to purchase quality equipment, you'd be able to keep using it in the years to come, to keep offering different kinds of virtual programming. Okay. Other options could be using like a tablet, maybe a Surface Pro or an iPad. And those are really neat because, one, they're really portable and they're easy to film on. You can also transfer files through them very well, and sometimes they'll even have a video editing app that you can download, and then you can edit your video right there. So you're filming, you're editing, you're exporting, all from the same device, and that can be very handy. These modern devices now also tend to have really good sound built in as well. But if you're looking for great quality sound, you would probably want to invest in some kind of external microphone. So this could be like a shotgun or snowball style microphone that you might see video creators and podcasters use on YouTube. But you could even go for something like a discrete lapel or lavalier microphone, which you could use also in the future, of course, for any outdoor programming that you might be doing or anything that's going to be in a large crowded room in the future. And the last note on equipment here is to get a tripod, because it's 2021 and there's really no excuses for having shaky video. So some kind of base or a tripod, they don't have to be very big or expensive, just so that your video quality is steady and it won't be blurring up on people. I suppose I should have said this earlier. I have it here in the wrong part of my notes, but also when you're filming for your story times, film your videos horizontally, unless you are specifically filming for Instagram TV, which would be vertical. But the horizontal filming mode on a smartphone or camera is going to provide the best viewing experience across many devices and platforms. Okay, so background and lighting. After you have your equipment in hand, you've got to pick a place to film your video, of course. Choosing a background is very important. You want to make sure that it's interesting to the eye, but not too busy, or it might be distracting. On the other hand, you don't want to go for something that's entirely plain and beige and boring, because it's something people, their eyes don't want to look at it, their eyes will shift away, they're going to get bored, they won't be as engaged. So if you're working out of your library, you can always film right in your normal Storytime area in the children's room. That does help give children and their families a sense of continuity, that the library is still there for them and it's familiar, they've been there before. You could also film out of your office if you're unable to access that children's room right now, or even from your home if you are still working from home. Again, whichever place you find, you can make work by adding plants or artwork or something else visually interesting in the background. Make sure, though, that anything you don't want families to see isn't behind you, because this is the age of the internet and things do tend to live forever on the internet. So be mindful of what might be behind you there. And when you're filming, wear bright, solid colors. If you are wearing a busy pattern, it could be conflicting with your background or competing with the illustrations that are in the story. Place your camera far enough away from you to fit yourself into the frame, as well as any additional props that you might be having, such as a flannel board or any additional books or puppets. Keep the camera at your eye level if you can as well. When you talk down to a screen, it doesn't really translate well. You might be used to sitting on a stool or a chair when you are doing story time with the kiddos, and so maybe they're sitting on the floor and you're talking down towards them. But there's something about that in a virtual environment that seems a little bit odd or patronizing. Similarly, if you are looking up at the camera, that really tends to unsettle people. So if you can, try to look directly at that camera, and if you're, say, using a laptop for filming your story time, prop a couple of books or boxes, something underneath the laptop so that the camera is at your eye level. It can also be really tempting to watch the monitor or the screen and see yourself. And that, of course, is helpful for making sure that things are in frame, but try to talk directly at the lens of their camera, because then it feels like your audience, you are looking directly at them and not off to the side. Okay, similarly, pretend that camera is your audience and keep them in mind and speak to them just as you would if you were all together in the same room. Don't be afraid to be yourself and to keep it fun and engaging. It might feel nervous for you to be in front of a camera, especially if it's not something that you do very often, maybe before you never did it at all. But I encourage you to try not to overthink it. It is something that eventually you will get used to. It doesn't have to be forever. It's just for these couple of temporary months, right? If it helps you, you can always jot down a couple of notes and have them nearby, just sort of to keep you on track, so you don't have to have a lot of ums or ahs or dead space in the middle of your virtual story time. And last thing here on this slide is lighting. Lighting can make a huge difference in the quality of your overall video. Bad lighting can make it really hard for people to see you or see what's on the page. And good lighting can make your video look more professional looking, cleaner, and it's much clearer and easier for them to see the story. When you are positioning your lights, try not to have the lighting directly behind you, as that will cast you into a shadow. So if you are using natural light as your primary source, try not to be sitting with the window behind you, but instead either have the window in front of you or to the side of you. Because that will really help illuminate you on the screen without casting a lot of shadows. If it's cloudy or dark outside, you can always use external lighting, such as a lamp, or even a small ring light can be purchased online as well. And so have the light source, so the external light source like a lamp or the ring light, near your camera, and have it coming at you, the light coming at you from the same direction the camera is filming you. Always do lighting checks before you go live or before you record a video, just to make sure that there's not a glare either on the page or if you wear glasses on your glasses, and that there isn't a shadow being on your face or on the book. Okay, so family engagement. How do we keep families engaged when we are not physically in the building with them anymore? Well, one of the really regrettable things about virtual story time is that you are losing a lot of the feedback that you get from families during an in-person story time. Something as simple as just being able to watch the children's faces and their movements to gauge the interest they have in the story or the activity can be lost if you aren't able to see the families who are watching. If you use a Zoom meeting, you might be able to see families who are willing or able to turn on their cameras, but if you are pre-recording your videos or if you are putting them on Facebook Live or Instagram Live, you're not able to get that visual feedback. Something you could do is have a second person monitoring your live stream who can respond to any comments that people make in real time. If you can't do that, always make sure to respond to those comments as soon as your stream is over, and to answer any questions your patrons might have had about the books or about some library service that you offer. So instead of treating your virtual story time the same way you would an in-person story time, where you're talking to a larger group of children all at the same time, in virtual story time, you can think of it more as if you're talking to a child one-on-one and make it a little bit more personal. Chances are there's only one or two children in their home watching you from that particular computer or device, even though you might have 15, 20, 30, 100 people watching your story time. They're only having those little small groups at a time. So it can be a really great opportunity to model how one-on-one book sharing can be for caregivers who might also be watching. Keep your reading pace slow enough for children to understand the words that you're saying. And when you ask questions, allow enough of a pause for children to answer back to you, even though, of course, you are not able to hear them answer. You can think of the way that different kids shows like Sesame Street or Dora the Explorer, or of course our own favorite Mr. Rogers, they always leave a pause after asking a question. And that allows space for children to feel like they are participating as well. And of course, because most of the ways that we are doing our virtual story time, we're not getting that response back from children. We're not able to hear what they're saying. Then we can model a response in our thought process after we've allowed that time for that pause. And if you can't engage with families because of technology shortcomings during your live programs, you can always get families involved with activities at home. And the easiest way to do this is to use a caregiver aside as you transition from one storytime activity to another. This can be using words only, or it could be a visual element that's edited into your pre-recorded video. For those of you who attended the Supercharged Storytimes course a number of years ago, or if you came to our early literacy chat back in August, you will know already what a caregiver aside is. But for anybody who needs a refresher, a caregiver aside is an early literacy tip that you share with families to highlight the connections between the activity you're doing in storytime with early literacy and a child's later reading ability. The caregiver asides only last about 15 to 20 seconds. But for more detail, I would encourage you to check out the archived webinar we did last August. It's on the State Library's website. So at the Anchorage Public Library and many other libraries around the state, I know that staff have been distributing different activity and crafts packets to families. These could be tied to a particular virtual program that you're doing, or it could just be general literacy or learning activities. So perhaps in your Storytime video, you might be demonstrating for families how to do a short craft, and then the packet that you have families pick up that week could contain supplies and materials that families could use while following along with you, or if you are pre-recording your videos while they watch that video later. There is a Google Drive database, I don't know what to call it exactly, that all libraries can view, and I will make sure that it is linked with our the archive of the recording of this webinar right now. It's got things in there from the Anchorage Public Library and Homer Public Library and maybe a few others, so that you can use it for ideas or even download and repurpose some of those files for your own library as well. Your library, of course, may not have the budget for printing out different pieces of paper with activity instructions. It might not have the budget for supplying the actual craft supplies, but you could take some of these ideas and create digital versions of them and then host those on your own website or social media so that families could download those and print them on their own to participate that way as well. Okay, so accessibility. A virtual story time, unless you are specifying it by the library, should be treated just the same as a family story time, where children of all ages and stages might be attending. And this means making sure that there's something in your story time that is suiting every age, from babies all the way up to 5 and 6-year-olds. So I'm sure many of you are already offering family story times at your library or have done so in the past. So I won't get into any more detail about offering family story time because I'm really sure you've got it handled. But if you have any questions about it later, always feel free to reach out to me. As we mentioned before, just a few slides ago, lighting is critical for your video for a multitude of reasons, and one of those is also for accessibility. We know that children really need to see our mouth movements. It's contributing to their early literacy development as they're watching our mouths make the different sounds. And of course, we know that some members of the deaf and hard of hearing community also rely on lip reading and watching our expressions during story time as well. So if our video is dark or fuzzy, it will be really hard for families to see your face and your mouth movements. It's also really important that your voice is able to be clearly heard. So when you are recording your video, make sure that you are projecting your voice the same way you would if you were in a room with a lot of kiddos making noise. It might feel silly to do that, especially if you're all by yourself in a room talking to a camera, talking a little bit louder than you would if there was just you and another person in that room. But your audience will notice the difference. They'll notice your energy and your enthusiasm, and it's going to improve both the quality of your audio and your overall production value of your video. Including captions for your video will also help towards accessibility. YouTube and Facebook can do automatic captions on your videos after you either upload it to YouTube or you have finished your Facebook Live event. But the quality on the automatic captions isn't always the best. So if you have time, I would strongly encourage you to go back and edit those captions for clarity. Sometimes it thinks we've said a certain word, but we actually meant something different, or it has omitted a phrase entirely. So always go back and make sure that it actually is accurate if you can. There are also ways you could do real-time captioning with some social media products. The Facebook Live, if you have their live API and you contract with a third-party captioning company, you could do real-time captioning that way during the live event. But I admit that even looking into it for this chat, I don't really understand how it works. So if there's anyone here who's doing that, I would really hope that at the end of it, when we're all having our sharing time, that you can talk about it with everybody. Or if there's somebody at your library who really understands technology, hopefully they can look into that and maybe share that with everybody too. Because I think the live captioning is really the best option if you can do it versus waiting until after the fact and having captions available then. If you are pre-recording your videos, you can use a video editing software to put your song lyrics and book titles right there on the screen on the video for folks. But even if you aren't pre-recording your videos, do include your book titles and possibly links to your catalog directly in the description box or in the comment sections of your events. I also recently learned of a new website called Genially, which, among many other things, can help you create interactive images. And one thing that we've done here at APL, especially for like book displays, if you take a picture of the books using Genially, you can make them into links. And so when people click on the book cover, then they can be taken directly to your library's catalog. So let me go ahead. I'm going to put the link to that one in the chat there. Okay. So our last, or almost last, second to last, is on copyright. And this one was a tough one because you could make an entire hour or 2 hours all about copyright in related to Storytime. And I didn't want to take over the whole thing, but I also didn't want to not say anything at all because I was like, why include it? But, sorry, forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. But, copyright's its own little beast, right? And I'm not an expert in copyright. I'm not an attorney, so none of this section here should be considered advice necessarily, but just sort of what we've talked about at APL as sort of best practice and what I've read libraries around the country are considering to be best practice. So at the beginning of the very first lockdown in March of 2020, Sarah Ostman from the ALA Public Programs Office published an article titled Online Storytime and Coronavirus. It's fair use, folks. And in it, she wrote that Storytime is a quintessential service of public and school libraries. Its social benefits are unquestioned as it advances literacy and learning, key byproducts of copyright law. When we think of Storytime that takes place in the library, which is a public place, before a group of individuals, we are exercising the right of public performance, an exclusive right of the author, publisher, or other rights holder. Because this right belongs to the author or other rights holder, libraries must use the concept of fair use to determine if we can exercise that right without getting explicit permission from the rights holder. So fair use in this case must consider 4 things. 1, the purpose of the use. 2, the nature of the publication. 3, the amount of work use. 4, the effect on the market. So in a Storytime, we are reading, usually, the entirety of a fictional published book that the library has purchased. And it's generally accepted that libraries are meeting the fair use criterion. So reading a book aloud to kids, it's a nonprofit activity. We're not making money from this. It is benefiting society. And, it could even prompt families to buy their own copy if their child really enjoyed it. But they also, of course, could be checking that book out from the library over and over again. And of course, now that we're in virtual Storytime land, people began to wonder, are we still meeting that fair use criteria? When we read books in person, the performance doesn't last. It's just that one-time ephemeral thing. You either saw it or you didn't see it. But now, with virtual, we are recording our story times, either the pre-recorded videos on YouTube or other platforms, or it's the live video on social media that can live for a couple of days, if not however long you really wanted it to live. When they are recorded and online, more people have access to them than would have had access in the Storytime room. And some publishers worry that this recorded Storytime is going to cost them potential future sales because families would watch this Storytime book over and over again rather than going and getting their own copy, either by checking it out or purchasing on their own. But with the closures of many libraries and the increase in barriers for the public to access our materials, some arguments are being made now that virtual Storytimes benefit society by keeping literacy activities going for many families and communities. And posting online story times continues our mission during this worldwide emergency, and it continues to fall under those fair use criteria. Experts still recommend, however, that effort is taken to restrict access to your videos and the further distribution of them. And this can mean only making your video or your live stream available for a few days on social media, maybe a week or so. It can mean posting the video as an unlisted video on YouTube and only sharing the direct link with families through a newsletter or having them email a staff member to get the link. It could also be having families pre-register for a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or other event that way. And as an added layer of CYA, cover your behind, many publishers have granted explicit permissions for libraries to use their book during virtual storytime. The most detailed information is available from School Library Journal. They have a COVID-19 Publisher Information Directory, which is a Google Doc. We'll see the link in our Diving Deeper slide, and you'll be able to get to it right from the archive webinars page on the State Library as well. And I'll put it in the chat in just a little bit here as well. And so many of these publishers have extended their permission into June of 2021. Some only had it going until December 2020. So you would have to double check their which book you've got in hand, who published it, see what their publisher is saying for how they would like the virtual storytime to be handled. Will we see those permissions get extended past June 21? It's hard to tell, depending on how libraries' reopening plans go and vaccine distribution. It's all still so much up in the air. So we'll have to wait and see and reevaluate, I think, come our summer reading programs as well. A little note here about music with copyright. If you are pre-recording and uploading your video, do be mindful of any music that you might include. Lots of children's songs are already in the public domain. Most of the ones that you use in Storytime probably already are. But if you are using recorded music, always try to choose public domain music or music that's covered by a very loose Creative Commons style licensing. And if you can't do that for any reason, it might be best just to skip pre-recorded music altogether. I'm seeing in chat, looks like Julie posted that link there. So thank you for Julie for that. All right, so some COVID specifics here at the end. Some of the things that we've been doing would be starting the video while wearing the mask to talk about why we wear the mask, and then showing children that we can take it off because we are by ourselves in our room. We no longer do any songs or activities that involve touching the face or the eyes or the nose, anything like that. You can start including hand washing songs or other songs about a certain length to encourage families to sing them while they're washing their hands with their children, so they're making sure that they're getting that full 20 seconds or more. And then this is a great opportunity now for, if you haven't been doing it in the past, to start using your virtual story times as a way to connect families with other community resources. Those could be things like the WIC clinic or food banks or places that give out winter gear for kids, anything that your families may be struggling with. If there's something in your community that could be connected to them, it would be a great opportunity in your virtual story time to shout those organizations out. Oh, I see a question from Marguerite about sharing hand washing songs. The one that I like best with my own son, who's 3.5, is one, it's from Jay Brary, and it's to the tune of Frère Jacques. And why not? I'll sing it. It goes like this. Tops and bottoms, in between, rub them both together, now they're clean, And if you do that one twice, it's usually about the full 20 seconds. Okay, so here we've got a couple of links. Julie already has the one for the SLJ COVID one in the chat there. ALA has created a resource guide all about virtual Storytime services, which I, again, highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out because it can get into a lot more detail than I can in just half an hour or so. And then there was this great article that was published last March in the Ontarian Librarian. I think it's a blog, and she had a great article with just different tips and tricks for recording virtual Storytime as well. So I will make sure those ones get posted in the chat. But now it is time. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open the floor up to everybody who's here today. And I'd love to hear what your library is doing for virtual Storytime.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm over in Fairbanks at the Fairbanks Norway Public Library. We are doing following the kind of programming that we had, that we have a preschool story time and a parents and two story time and a mother moose story time. And it's interesting that everyone still has their own flavor, just like in a real story time, even virtually. We do sometimes use green screen too in our story times to mix it up, not for Mother Moose so much, but the other ones. And I personally end up I don't usually have exactly the same formula each time that I will, with the books, sometimes I'm reading it and sometimes I read it with a book, but then put that picture in picture if the illustrations really aren't that easy to see. And then sometimes I have just done when I when I've been sick, but I've been teleworking and I look like crap, I've done that choice too. So um yeah, for me, variety is kind of nice. I don't have any clue if the audience likes that or not, because we don't get a huge amount of feedback, just enough to know that some families are watching and appreciate it. And at the beginning, we were lucky enough to get people sending pictures of their kids watching us, watching the TV. We don't do live. We tried that, but when we were working at home, none of us had the strength of the bandwidth really to make that a good recording. And then coming back here, it's just so much easier to do it not live. And the situation, like if you're not feeling good, having somebody back you up is we just it was too much, and so we didn't do it, and we haven't added that in. So that's where we're at. We do kind of add other kinds of programming into on a more random basis.
Awesome. Thank you for
Oh yeah,
sharing.
and on a regular basis too. So we have our library mascot has videos too. Oh yeah, and craft videos. So instead of so that was another thing. Originally the crafts tied in with the preschool story time, but they don't anymore. They're more anything goes on the craft day. And we show our public book, our new books that are coming in. Those are videos that we post as well. And our virtual workload of what we're doing. So there's quite a variety of different things. And then an example would be I just did a cooking show with my sister back in England. It's been really popular. It's not necessarily an early literacy thing, but it makes people connected with us as library, people in their community and get to know us. And so that's kind of hopefully that would make more people watch my preschool story time. Let's see. That was, well, hopefully get a new audience from doing this too.
Sounds great. I love it. Yeah, I put an example in the chat of a pre-recorded circle time. There's a preschool here in Anchorage that doesn't have in-person preschool time anymore. So every week they're sending out to the caregivers, the parents at home, a little circle time. So I put that in the chat if folks wanted to get sort of example of what a pre-recorded story time could look like, because I love the way that New Horizons Preschool is doing it. And it sounds like Fairbanks is doing a lot of good stuff too. Anybody else would like to share?
This is Adrian from Nenana. We've been just doing a live with our community page. And I've been wanting to expand a little bit because our community has been pretty tight staying home. Tried to do some after school stuff as well, but that hasn't been successful. So I've been looking for more ideas, and I'm glad we're here today because this has given me some more ideas. So thank you very much for this.
Hi.
Hi, Linda.
Hello. Hi. This is Linda from the Soldotna Public Library, and we've been doing 2 story times and a craft video, and ours are pre-recorded. 2 of them are, and then we do one Zoom program. And we are finding that for us in our area, the pre-recorded is getting much better views because they can just come into it when it works in their schedule. Whereas a Zoom, they need to come in at 10:30 in the morning. And we're also finding that a shorter story time is better. And so if we keep our story times 15 to 20 minutes, that's like the perfect time that we're finding. We get better responses from that. If we do it for a half an hour, people are disengaging. The kids are disengaging, things like that. We are using Camtasia. It's a video editing program, and for our pre-recorded, and I am not the best at editing, and this is fairly easy to use. So just thought I'd give a little yay for Camtasia. Our story times are, it's really hard to keep my eyes. I have trouble with my eyes, so I really appreciated that eye comment on where to be looking or not looking, and that is really important. A tripod has worked so nicely for us. Since we were using books, we were using chairs, we were using different things. We got a tripod on a table. Very, very nice. It worked out perfect. Our story times are done with a storyteller and a book. So to zoom in to my book, I just take my hands, move the book in front of me, and zoom it closer to the camera. And that's my manual zoom lens, and it works pretty good. We are adjusting more and more. We're getting ready for summer reading, and how are we going to be doing it for virtual? And that has been kind of exciting. We're learning all kinds of little tricks and things to do, and the Camtasia has made it much easier for us to splice in. So maybe we could pre-record a person from the dentist's office, showing us something, and then splice it into our story time. Things like that have been coming about slowly but surely, and we're excited about that. And anyway, I just thought I'd just share a little bit there.
Yeah, thank you. That I've heard of Camtasia before, but I have never used it before. But I'm glad it's working for you. It sounds really neat to be able to put together all the different videos and add features to your pre-recorded video. I love it.
Can I just jump in and ask if anyone has used Prezi? Because I watched a webinar just recently that said that's a really good one with the things that you can add in whilst you're on screen. Just wondered if anyone had experience with it. Guessing no.
Doesn't sound like it, but would anybody, I mean, would folks like to share if you are editing your videos, what software you might be using?
In the chat or?
In the chat or out loud,
Yeah.
whichever folks prefer.
Well, ours is iMovie, and we've been really happy with that.
So it sounds like we're not hearing a lot of people volunteering what they're editing with. So it sounds like are the other folks on this call, are you all just doing your story times live? And if so, how are you posting those to families? If you're not comfortable speaking up, you can always put it in the chat as well.
I'll go. You haven't posted it yet, but I have an awesome tech who's doing male-led story times because that can be an issue here of men reading to children. And so we're trying to find different people from the community to come in and read for them. And I really like that tip about Camtasia. I'm going to try to use that for editing.
Sounds great. And Jasmine, I didn't catch where you are.
Sorry, I'm nervous talking. I was like, I don't think they know me. No, they don't know me. I am the academic outreach librarian at Tezzy Library. It's in Barrow. So we don't have a lot of people that come for the virtual story time, but we do have people who look at our videos, as the lady earlier said.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that idea of bringing in folks from the community as well to share. Because, you know, if it's all virtual, it could be, you could have somebody recording their part from their own home and you could edit that in and you don't have to be together, but it's great to include other members of the community in this as well. See in the chat, Adrian is saying Nana is doing community page live and saving it for a month-long viewing. And Geraldine says that she feels more prepared for the summer than last, which I think a lot of folks probably are feeling a little bit more comfortable now. Last summer was interesting. She feels the response to story times has been dismal. Oh man. People's schedules have changed a lot, but the radio program with kids as guests and a choose your adventure book has been well received and had good response from listeners. Oh, okay, cool. So you're doing radio stuff in Talkeetna? That sounds great. Any other folks have explored radio? Not hearing anything. I think Claudia was doing some radio before, but she's not here, so I don't know exactly how that all works. But I think she may have posted something in the ACLA list a while back about it. Yes, the radio one can be a bit more complicated, getting publishers' permission, I believe, yeah. But it sounds great. Yeah, it definitely sounds like it was worth it if people are enjoying it in your community. We've got about 5 minutes left. Would anybody else like to share what they've been doing or ask any questions about their upcoming programs?
Hey, Samantha, this is Julie, and I just wanted to share to the group that, you provided an excellent kind of a list of how to get of the equipment necessary to get started with virtual story times. So any library that has received a public library assistance grant that wanted to write an ILC grant to purchase equipment for a virtual story time or virtual children's programming, that would be a terrific ILC grant. And we often don't receive a lot of those grants from public libraries. The deadline for a library to submit a grant is April 1st. So there is plenty of time for folks if they were looking into that. I just wanted to let them know that there is funding available for those kind of purchases.
Yes, I appreciate that. It's something I think I thought about and then never wrote down, and I've learned something about myself this last year that if I don't write it down, I don't remember it. So thank you, Julie, for including that. Yes, it's definitely true. I've seen that before with ILC grants. We get a lot of bigger ticket things from the same people every year, but not a lot of smaller projects and requests from other libraries. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, this is a great investment for future programming, even when things get back to the new normal. So if that's something your library would like to do, then a grant opportunity could be really helpful for you.
I would like to ask if people think that when we reopen it, they're still thinking that they'll keep virtual in there. Does anybody know? It's hard to know the future.
Hi again, it's Linda at the Soldotna Public Library. And we are very, I think we're reaching a lot of people that don't normally come into the library with their kids. And for us, and we're seeing people, I think it's reaching our community more by having these pre-recorded story times, and they can watch them again and again, or they can share them. I know that one of my story times was shared from a family up here down to Texas, which was like, I don't care what kids I reach, if they're in state or out of state. Uh, and I think that we are thinking that we're going to embrace story times that are virtual. Now, there is a lot to be said for having those little kids and families come into the library, and I'm just excited about nurturing the parents as well as the kids. That happen a lot when they're in-house, and then I get more excited. But when I see numbers that show that it's reaching more people, that's what I want to do. Is I want to reach more people. I want more kids excited about books. I want parents excited about their kids wanting to read books. So I personally think that, yes, this COVID thing is terrible, and it has forced me into virtual story time, but maybe it was for the good. There is some good. There's a silver lining. And so I think our library is going to continue with some virtual story times even after the pandemic. But of course, we're excited to have them come into the library too. So
my colleague Sarah here, she just was on Facebook looking today, and we know we had to do these crazy long 45-minute programs last summer to replace our regular summer reading programs. But just like last week, a couple of people watched one of those really long story times all the way through. So there is, yeah, there's still like a market, it seems like.
All right, we've hit 12 o'clock, so if anybody needed to jump off, totally understand. Hearing what Linda was saying, I definitely agree that I think even in the future, there will be a place for virtual story times, especially for parents and caregivers who can't come to the library during the story time. Either they're at work or they are with other siblings or other commitments or something like that. Having a virtual option for those families is a great way to keep the reach going in your community. So if anybody would like to keep sharing, I don't mind sticking around for a little bit. But for anybody who has to jump off, the next early literacy chat is going to be April 27th. It's another Tuesday at 11 a.m. and it's going to be story time through an equity lens. So hopefully I'll see some of you folks there as well. Like I said, I'm willing to stay on and keep hosting, but if you've got to go, that's totally fine. And have a good rest of your day to folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. It was really insightful. I love it.
Thank you for all the information. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for having this. It was really good. I am excited about our summer reading program, and I'm hoping that maybe we could have a chat about the summer reading program and ideas that people are sharing with that. So, just an idea.
So,
Have a
Linda, before you go, we had a panel presentation that was recorded, and
oh,
I will. Did you see that?
I must have missed it. I have been out a little bit, so
Okay, I can send you that link. I will send it to you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye. Great presentation, Samantha. I'm